Bad guys. Such a phrase. Bad guys. It's used to normally describe someone in the wrong, someone who's done wrong. But really, there's no black and white when it comes to the real world. When it comes to the world where, in the real world, there's just gray. There's no complete good or complete evil. Everyone has their rights and wrongs. Everyone has good and bad. One of the few things that people seem to forget is that, like, heroes make mistakes. Heroes can be the bad guys in the villain's perspective. In the villain's perspective, you step into that villain's shoes. You gotta understand that from the villain's perspective, you're seeing you're seeing the hero's flaws. You're seeing this weak, insecure, cowardly kid who's trying to fuck up your shit. That's what a villain sees. In most cases, when you're writing for a young adult novel, it varies on the character depending on who your hero is. Your hero could be like this arrogant, like in the eyes of the villain, it could be arrogant and boisterous. But in reality, if you step back and go into the hero's shoes, the hero isn't arrogant or boisterous. It's just that they have slightly better abilities that they don't know how to control. And to many, like even minor villains, like those side character villains that, like, you make for your hero to kind of conquer and get over, so your character can grow when they finally face that big bad at the end of the series or the end of the season. In reality, in a lot of ways, Dream SMP shows the gray line, and not showing good and bad. In the beginning, it showed L'Manberg versus Dream SMP, which was the black and white, and then, sorry, not black and gray, black and white, and then it changed. It changed when season 2 hit, like roughly season 2, which hit, and that was when Wilbur was thinking, "Are we in the wrong? We're not in the wrong." In reality, Schlatt and Quackity won the election fairly, and then Wilbur and Tommy were being overly confident. As Tommy said in one of his latest streams 2 weeks back, he said that he and Wilbur were overly confident, and they thought they would win, and that ended up being their downfall. And Wilbur's spiral happened because he knew he was winning back a nation that Schlatt and Quackity had won fairly in an election. And so he was like, we're the bad guys, because he knew that they were in the wrong. They're in the wrong. Another one you could kind of throw out here is that Technoblade. Technoblade's character is the morally gray character. He will help whoever he can. He chooses people over sides. And that's same with Rambo. Rambo chooses people over sides. Now, sometimes that can be a dangerous character to play, because if you have that dangerous character that chooses people over sides, sometimes if you're in a story that has sides, most characters will see them as traitors, which really hurts the character's relationship. If you are double playing sides, it can hurt the character in the long run. But if you know how to write it well, you can make it seem like everyone likes the character and there's no wrongdoing in the end. And that's kind of just that moral character that's kind of just hopping back and forth trying to help people and not actually trying to start war or something. Another thing that, like, I bring up is, like, the people in the background, like Awesome Dude and Foolish and Puffy and so many people who finally started getting Lauren. In the beginning, they were kind of background characters that kind of helped your main character, but they had their own issues. Sam was this guy who just wanted to help minors, and then after Tommy's death, it became that most people like Tommy, like some people like Tommy and Rambo, and maybe even Tubbo, saw him as a bad guy. Connor sees him as a bad guy because, in his story at least, Connor expands, because he wants the prison to be reformed and not have just a bad guy sitting there. He wants the bad guy to be a good guy. The bad guy, Dream, quote unquote bad guy, in his eyes, Dream just wanted this happy family, and even if that meant sacrificing his relationships with people, because he believes that attachment brings problems. Which, yes, it does bring problems, but if you, but sometimes you can't, you can't really, like, be like, power, like attachments are necessary in a person's life. You can't just disconnect all attachments, or else you become what most people view as a monster. Hence the reason that Dream is considered a monster, because he decided to cut all ties with his attachments and only have like the discs, and Tommy are really his attachments, and then he has Techno, who just owes him a favor, and so Techno's just really a work partner. Techno, like, really what Techno views everyone as is a work partner. And maybe he has, like, one friend, which is Phil, and he has Rambo, who he likes enough. But in reality, you can't just, Techno doesn't really have attachment other than, like he has Steve. He has Phil. Like he has attachment, but he's that moral character. He's the moral gray character where, like, he doesn't fit into one single side. He's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's just Techno. And so I think that's where a lot of people get confused with, is there a good guy? Is there a bad guy? Is because it's really, really, it depends on who you're talking of, who what's going on in the background. And so that's why when most people ask, hey, what is this all about? Is they're talking about it, when most, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. When most people, another person that I'd like to talk about is Quackity. Quackity started out as this really, like, just on the side kind of weird character that kind of was like, he was kind of like Ricaro from Origins of Olympus. He was really funny. He wasn't a main character by no means. He was really funny. He was kind of just kicked to the curb most of the time. And he was the big bad's fiance at one point. He was he had his own running gag. He did so much, but, like, he also did so little in turn. Like, he was there for most of the major events, but he was kind of just swept to the side, mainly because he was considered a secondary character, or that kind of had this goofball personality. But now he's viewed as a villain, and by some people, like for me, I would say he's kind of like a good guy turned villain. But like I said, there's no black and white, so he's, again, morally gray. Everyone's morally gray, but Quackity turned from this really happy-go-lucky person, and over time he just kind of turned into this dulled character that's kind of just like wanting revenge after all those who wronged him, Dream being one of them, and I think and another being Techno, after Techno put a pickaxe through his teeth, because Techno was, Techno had thought it would be a fair trial, like, all these things were promised, never actually happened. So, so in the end, Techno was betrayed, and in the end, Quackity was also betrayed, because Schlatt kind of, like, treated him like crap, and it doesn't help. It's morally gray characters are really, really hard to like, never mind. So yeah, Wilbur is also a morally gray character. At the beginning, he was on the good guys, and then he kind of just slipped into bad guys' perspective, as I said. Tommy is another phenomenon. Tommy, like, was the good guy for a very long time, and then over the past 6 months, he kind of said to himself, and in his latest stream, I'm going to quote his latest stream, it kind of depends on who's asking. Like, if you asked Dream, he would say it was his toy, he was, like, his favorite plaything. If you asked Wilbur, he would say it's my brother that I love, despite the stuff he did. If it was Quackity, he would say he was my best friend. If it was Puffy, he would say she would say it was that he was her favorite miner. If it was Sam, he would say, sorry, he would say that, like, he was favorite best friend. And like he was a kid that didn't deserve the crap that happened to him. If you asked Tubbo, he would say it was my best friend. If you asked Rambo, he would say my best friend. But it like if you asked Phil, it would just be a gremlin child that did wrong to Techno. But like, it's Techno, and Techno would say, he's the guy that betrayed me after I tried to help him. So, and Sapnap would say, he's a guy that I don't really trust. And so in the end, it depends on who's talking. It depends on who views. Like, Bad and Skeppy, they're Bad and Skeppy. So, Bad used to be this good person that turned kind of evil due to, what is it? Due to the egg. But, in the end, the egg is not morally evil. We don't know what the egg is. We don't know what the egg wants. We don't know. And all we knew at the time was he wanted Tommy dead. And that was it. Like, that was, we don't know. The egg is an anomaly. The egg is this weird kind of thing. And then all the big villain characters in the Dream SMP don't get perspectives because they're the big villain characters. It's kind of the point. Another character that's kind of an anomaly I would say would be Phil. Phil is this character that had to hop on to assist his son in performing bad deeds, and then he did bad deeds himself by helping Techno destroy L'Manberg. It really, like I said, it's all in perspective, and Phil didn't want to do those things, but he was like, I don't want this to happen again. He doesn't want a repeat of Wilbur. He doesn't want a repeat. And then even though Ghostbur was like, he's a terrible liar, but like Ghostbur's feelings suddenly flooded floodgates, and suddenly it was like Phil was staring at Wilbur again, except it wasn't Wilbur. It was Ghostbur who was shouting, Ghostbur who was upset, Ghostbur that was questioning his morals and questioning Phil's morals, and it was it's just you can't really trust who's who, and that's kind of sad in my opinion. Is that like in the end, Ghostbur was a character that was happy-go-lucky, but had all this bad baggage on his hands because of his alive self's actions, and then for him to suddenly release the floodgates and suddenly he became alive in those quick few minutes when he was shouting at Phil for questioning why he'd done this, or why Phil, which is his father, by the way, which he considered a hero, turned bad. And another thing is like Tommy's questioning why Wilbur, someone he considered a hero, like Reviver, who he considered a hero, is now basically like, Dream is my favorite, Dream is this, Dream is that, blah blah blah. So it's different. Yeah. So thank you for listening to this 13-minute podcast. I know it's kind of it's kind of a lot, but like that's what I wanted to talk about. I really wanted to talk about these morally gray characters and point out that everyone in the end is a hero and a villain in everyone's story. Everyone's not just one-sided. You can watch one person's perspective and then it will be completely different in another person's perspective. Well, and I think that's the cool thing about the Dream SMP, and that's the cool thing about the Origins roleplay group, is that like everyone has their own view on things, and everyone has their own take, and so they're not just one person's view, which is really cool and really great, and I'm really glad that's how it is, because it shows that like not everyone's a villain, not everyone's a good guy. There's morally gray. Everyone's morally gray. There's spots where people screw up. There's spots where people are really good, and it's I'm just glad that this exists, and I'm glad that I got to talk about this. I might not post this anywhere, but this is my take on who I consider what's going on, and why I think that morally gray characters are like a really cool thing that everyone should really like pay attention to, not just have the black and white characters, because black and white characters are very one-sided and very one-note, not very diverse. And so like a person in real life is not one-sided. So a character in a book should not be one-sided. There should be multiple points, multiple views, and really that's just my point. That's what I think, and I'm glad I had this conversation. Yeah. Thank you for spending your time with me. Maybe I'll make more podcasts like this. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed.